You're good to go, Muskan. Muskan, you can start. You can start. We are live. Muskan, can you hear me?
Yes, I
Muskan?
can hear you. Yes, I
You
can
can
hear
begin.
you. Okay. Hey, I'm Muskan, and today with me I have Karthik and Jitesh, two hardcore CSK fans. Am I right? Right. So, why don't one of
Yeah.
you, why don't one of you name 5 players in 10 seconds?
Sorry, say that again. 5 players in 10 seconds.
Yes.
Stephen Fleming. Stephen Fleming, Aniruddha Srikanth, Vidyut Sivaramakrishnan. I'm giving the old names here, yeah? Michael Hussey, and let's say Dwayne Smith. Just for a really
Okay, what about you, Karthik?
Oh, easy. Has to start with Dhoni, Jadeja, Raina, Bravo, and Harbhajan.
Amazing. Okay, so why CSK? Why not MI or RCB or any other team for that matter?
Well, it's easy. I was born in Chennai myself, and so right from day one, it wasn't going to be any other team. But I guess when Chennai also chose in the very first year Dhoni as captain, that kind of sealed the deal. And ever since then, it's only been CSK for me.
And what about you?
Yeah, more or less the same, Muskan. I mean, born and raised in Madras, played cricket on the streets, grew up hearing about the India Cements division cricket team. So when, they decided to take up a franchise, there was an immediate connection there because that these people know how to run the game, right? I would have been a little skeptical if it was a movie star or any other industrialist running the cricket team. But the fact that it was India Cements is a legacy behind the team already, So yeah, no brainer.
Right. Okay. Was it? You mentioned Mahendra Singh Dhoni, right? So was it because of the movie, or is there a backlog kind of a thing to CSK?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
You mentioned Mahi, right?
Yeah.
So was it because of the movie that came out, or is it even before that?
No, it wasn't because of the movie as such, because Dhoni was already an India player back then, and he was very successful, and I think he brought a lot of change to the Indian team as well. And we could see how he was a special captain. He was very different from everyone before him. And even when he started off at CSK, you could see that CSK was his adopted home, and it was just easy for us to like him as a player and as a CSK person too. So I don't think it was anything to do with the movie as such. It was more due to his persona, his ability as a captain, and as a player as well.
That's a fair deal. Okay. So what happens after Mahi's retirement? Would you guys still support CSK, or are you just gonna, stick to your home team?
No, I mean, I'm old school that way. So you pick a team and you stick by them, win or lose. So if there's anybody that's watching this, there's a big life lesson there, to go with that. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's nice. Not many plastic fans here. Okay. So
Yeah.
on the eve of the IPL 13 curtain raiser, Mumbai Indian loyalists had a hilarious tweet banter with the CSK army. Do you have friends who absolutely love MI, and did you slam the win in their faces, or did you get involved in the Twitter war by yourselves?
Karthik, what about you?
Well, I have friends who support Mumbai Indians, but to be honest, the banter is always healthy. They're both very, very good teams. I mean, the record speaks for itself. I mean, Jiggy will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think CSK are the only team who made the playoffs every single year, though, right? So we are, I think, the most successful team in terms of consistency. I know Mumbai have one more title than we do. We lost by, I think, a run last year. But overall, yeah, they're both very great teams. So yes, when Chennai win against Mumbai Indians, I do always talk to my friends about it as well. But I think if you look at both teams, the fact that I respect about Mumbai Indians as well is they both have a core of players that haven't changed over the years, and both have very, very passionate fan bases too.
Do you have anything to say to that? Do you not have any banter with your friends?
I mean, most of my work colleagues are based out of Bombay, so occasionally I put on the yellow jersey once we have a win. That's far as it goes, I think, work-wise. But, honestly, they've had the better head-to-head record with us over the past few years. So there's not much banter. But, yeah, I mean, the recent opening win was a good place to start with, I think, for us this year.
Oh, man, you got to rub it in their faces. It's just the best thing ever, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jadeja does not have a hat trick while Rohit Sharma has one for MI. Is that a slap on the face?
In terms of, did you say Rohit Sharma has a hat trick?
Yes.
Okay, that's news to me. I didn't realize Rohit Sharma had a hat trick. No, well, I mean, Jadeja is CSK through and through, right from the time he switched over from being a Rajasthan Royals player. So I think, yes, his time will definitely come, and I'm sure a hat trick's around the corner sometime, if that's what you're hoping for. But yeah, Jadu is more than the sum of its parts. He's a great player. I know he hasn't had the best start in terms of his bowling, but his batting has come leaps and bounds. You could see it in the World Cup as well, the way he batted in that semi-final when the game was pretty much lost. So he's a significant value player for CSK. And in fact, I think going forward, CSK would do better in this tournament by possibly thinking of sending him higher up. He's a selfless player, and that's the kind of players that Dhoni has built around his team. So he'd be one of the first names on my team sheet.
Yeah, no, I agree with Karthik, but I really think this is going to be a big season for him. He needs to step up, in the absence of Raina. I mean, his bowling in the first few games, I guess you kind of give them that little bit of leeway. They've not been playing for a while, but he has a big role to play this season. And I'll be very disappointed if he doesn't step up because this is pretty much his season to shine, I suppose.
Well, now that you mentioned Raina, how are you guys feeling about his absence? Do you think Raidu is a good replacement? Is he a good enough replacement, actually?
See, Raidu is a default starter, so he's not so much of a replacement. But I was reading the team CEO's press interview the other day, and he said some of the fans were asking Raina to come back. But he says that there's no question of him coming back because he is requested to opt out and the team respects his decision. So I guess we'll have to kind of, go through this tournament without Raina. But the number 3 position is going to be tricky. And I think that's where the team's been suffering. The entire combination is kind of gone for a toss with, in his absence. Faf is kind of playing that role right now. I'm not so sure if he should be because that kind of eats up that extra overseas player slot as well. But personally for me, Ambati Raidu is a default starter. And in my opinion, he should start opening the innings, right? He should open with Watson and we need to give Watson a run. And if he doesn't perform, then replace Faf with Watson in the opening slot, where Faf can play the sheet anchor role and Raidu can go all guns blazing, and the rest of the team can kind of play around him. I mean, looking into the future, I don't mind giving this kid, Ruturaj Gaikwad, a few more innings because that's something that we haven't seen from CSK in the past few years. We've given Ashwin that ball, and we've seen what Ashwin's become over the years. Perhaps Ruturaj can hopefully, do that, be that next, new kid on the block for us.
Well, that's a strategy. What do you feel about that, Karthik?
Yeah, no, actually, I think Jiggy's spot on with that. I think if we had the advantage of having Raina, would have been playing Raina instead of Faf, and we could have probably played Imran Tahir as an extra spinner in the team, and that would have added to us. But we've got to keep the balance of the lineup as well. But I think Raidu is more than a fit replacement. He's an informed player. Raina is a great player for CSK over the years, but if you look at his performance over the last 2 years, it probably was slightly on the decline, if I'm being honest. It wasn't the best. So having Raidu to open would actually be a great move and would help CSK get a move on in the first 6 overs. And I think that's where we've come up short. When you have big chases, even if you lose a wicket or two, especially if you bat deep, I think CSK have to step up the pedal in the first 6 to 8 overs.
Yeah.
Okay. So looking at their recent performance and looking at how the average age of the players is around 32. So do you think the Dad's Army has turned out to be Dud's Army instead?
I mean, I personally disagree with that phrase that you used, Dad's Army. I think you need to look at how CSK have done over the years. It's pretty much the same squad. Yes, they're year older now, but 2 years ago when they came back into the IPL, the same comments were happening, and we won the title that year with pretty much a similar squad. And then last year we were the runners-up. So they've been a very, very consistent team. Yes, I can see why people talk about younger blood. People see performances from other IPL teams. You see your young players making a huge impact. But CSK have a strategy where they rely on experience, and experience has already served them well. It doesn't mean that you stay static and don't change anything. So I think, as Jiggy and I were talking about, maybe we need to rejig the batting order. But we have the squad we have right now. So I think it's too late to say, oh, maybe we need to induce your young blood. Maybe a player or two as we go along. But also, I think they've struggled to adapt, to be honest. The spinners have struggled to adapt a little bit from having bowled in India and very, very spin-friendly pitches. When you go to the UAE, it's not the same. But I have full confidence in the team. A team doesn't perform as well as they have over the years without a lack of strategy. And this week's break that they're having now would be great. So I wouldn't be surprised if we come back to see a more consistent team in the next few games of the IPL. My message for fans would be not to hit the panic button straight away. I think you've got to support your team and rely on them all the way through. And 2 bad performances doesn't make them a bad team. It just means they need to fix a few things. But overall, they still have the quality of a very, very good team.
But don't you
I
think
agree.
that...
Yeah. No, sorry. Yeah, I'm not. Firstly, I was surprised that the average age is only 32. I thought it was a little higher. But it's the kind of experience that age brings, right? You need to think about it. Let's break it down. Your bowlers are going to bowl only 4 overs, right? Piyush Chawla can still deliver under pressure, right? And you can't buy that kind of experience, from a younger player. And when it comes to batting, Watson doesn't believe in running. When he can tonk it out of the ground, he's like, why run, right? But one of the areas is fielding, of course. We can perhaps save a few runs if we had a younger side, but the team is confident that, we can knock it off, with our batting. Then why worry, right? So that's a gamble that I think the skipper and then the team is taking. But yeah, let's see how long this tactic and the strategy is going to pay off. It's definitely not a long-term strategy, of course. We should be looking at maybe bringing in new blood in the next auction and all that. But yeah, for the current season, I don't think it's going to be to make too much of a difference, really.
But then, like you guys would have seen, the match with Ara, they needed around 213 runs, if I'm not wrong, and they lost the match by just 16 runs, right? And on the other hand, the match with Delhi Capitals, they lost by, I think they needed around 173 runs, and they could not make it. They lost by 44 runs. So don't you think their performance is just getting a little topsy-turvy?
Well, Karthik, maybe I can go first on this.
Go for it, yeah.
With the Rajasthan Royal games, it was 1 bad over. With Delhi Capitals, it was 1 bad game, right? It's a long tournament. We have a long way to go. And the fact that we beat Bombay, in the first game, that's we still think about that win, right? So there's definitely some positives take. from all that. But yeah, think about the Rajasthan Royals game. Despite the slow starts, we fell only like 16 runs short. But I think the objective at that point was to narrow down the net run rate, which is going to kind of might play in our favor as the tournament progresses. So decent effort, I would still say. Too bad that last over went for 30 runs of Ngiri's bowling. I mean, who would have thought, right? Jofra Arch of all people.
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, Karthik is based in England. I don't even know if the England team considers Jofra Archer as a pinch hitting batsman or a batting contributor. But out of the blue. That's the way
Yeah, they don't.
game goes.
Yeah. I mean, Archer's hardly had a chance to bat for England as well, so that was a huge surprise. But also, I think, despite losing it by a small margin, I think Dhoni was quite smart to ensure that the team got as close to the target as possible. He's done that in the past editions of the IPL as well, where the net run rate plays a huge difference. Very often, there's 2 or 3 teams who are at a very, very similar net run rate, and CSK in the past has always come just ahead of other teams and then gone on to win the title even. So I think that is a very, very smart move. Whereas in contrast, if you look at RCB, when they were chasing a 200-plus target recently, they went for it despite losing wickets, and then they got bowled out for 100 runs or so. So they had a massive difference between their target and what they got bowled out for, and that will affect your net run rate very, very badly going into the end of the tournament. And I think we need to remember that it's a 16. You play, is it 8 teams, right, this time?
Yeah.
So you have quite a few games. You have 14 games you're going to play. So you need to make sure that you build momentum up as you go on. And especially when you reach the second half of the tournament, you need to know exactly what your strategy is. There's still room for improvement. I'm not saying it's been a good performance. It's been very average so far, but I'm not panicking yet.
Yeah, I know. While Karthik was bringing up RCB, I just looked up the points table, and their net run rate is at a grand minus 2.175. So if any RCB fans are tuning in, that's something to be concerned about.
But even in the last 2 matches, I think Dhoni's line was pretty lazy. Do you think it was because of the beer belly, or I don't know?
Well, see, these people are athletes, and they've been out of action. Those who are currently professional, and those who've retired. So the first 3 games, you want to kind of give people their time to kind of warm up. I see this tournament playing out in 2 halves, right? The first half is them getting warmed up, being, to play, in a professional mode again. And the second half is when the wickets wear off, right? The pitches are going to get slower. That's where I think Dhoni and his spin masterclass tactics is going to come into play. So the thing is, you want to warm your best talent in the first half. Make sure they get the momentum. That's why you see Dhoni admitting that he's not had a knock. That's why he's come late down the order at 7. He wants to play a few balls. Let him get that practice. I was joking with the other friend the other day, saying a lot of teams have practice matches, and our boys are practicing during the match, right? So that's the difference. Right? But I think it's a tactic, it's a strategy. Hopefully, it'll pay off. Like Karthik and I were saying, it's a long tournament. Let's look at it in 2 halves. First half warm up, and second half is where all that energy is going to really focus on getting results in the latter half of the tournament.
Okay, so what did you think when CSK replaced Harbhajan Singh with Piyush Chawla?
I think personally, Chawla was quite an experienced bowler. He's done the job before for various teams. Although his India career wasn't great, he's got experience of bowling in the IPL. So I thought it was a good replacement. It was a very, very late replacement, so CSK didn't have very much time or players to choose from, because any player who's extremely good has already been chosen by the other IPL teams. And Harbhajan did do well for CSK over the last couple of years. So when a top player like that leaves the tournament just before it starts, I think we made the best out of a bad situation there, personally.
Yeah, and I think also the fact that he was a wrist spinner, I think that's a key asset to have in any team. A lot of teams really gun for the wrist spinners and also for a left arm, fast bowler. So the fact that we got Sam Curran and Piyush Chawla to cover those 2 bases, and the fact that both of them can come and hit a few shots, right? That's pretty valuable.
So then, how could you say that? I mean, his economy rate is very, very high. I think it's up to 9.2. Um,
Yeah, but I also noticed that he's in the top 10 wicket takers so far. So it's only like 3 games in, but he's able to grab those wickets, right? I think even in the Bombay game, he went for a few runs, but he got those key wickets. And even in the Rajasthan game, he's the one who picked up those key wickets. Yeah, he's going to go for a few. Like I said, the first half of the tournament is going to be batting friendly, and that Sharjah ground is like the tiniest ground in all of Middle East, I think, Middle East and India. So you're constantly going to see 200 plus scores on the ground, regardless of who's playing, right? At least for the first half of the tournament. And even after that, then that's where the real tournament starts, right? You're going to see the impact of Piyush Chawla. And even if he's going for a few runs, we have a like-for-like replacement in Karan Sharma, who's another wrist spinner. And we also have Imran Tahir, who's another wrist spinner. So, yeah, these people are going to be super valuable for us.
Okay, well, all of these key players out of the team, and also Bravo not being in the team, do you think it's a hit on our side?
Yes, definitely. I think Bravo is obviously a world-class all-rounder. So him being injured and not being available to play definitely affects the balance of the squad. I think if you heard Dhoni speak in his interviews, I think they were struggling, and Fleming as well. They were either a batsman short or a bowler short in all the games, and someone like Bravo can help fix that problem. So when he comes back, I think from what Jiggy was saying earlier, someone like Faf or maybe even Watson will have to sit out because Bravo is an indispensable part of the team. He's also a very good death bowler. He knows how to vary the pace of the ball. He slows it down. And on pitches like you have in the UAE, he'd be an incredible asset to the team. So, yes, the team's definitely missing Bravo, arguably more than someone like Raina or Harbhajan Ibn, I think.
Well, let me ask you, Karthik, something. Do you think Bravo should get like an automatic entry once he's fit again? Or would you still play Hazelwood as like a reliable opening and a death bowler?
I mean, given that Bravo is more of an all-rounder and he can bat and bowl, and I think he might be one of the highest wicket takers in the IPL as well, because of his track record, especially in the first half of the tournament when we're still experimenting, I would give more players a go. And I think that's one place where CSK can maybe change their strategy. I think in the past we've been quite rigid with the team, with 11, maybe the odd player coming in and out. But given that it hasn't started so far, I think what they should probably do is change things up a little bit and give the whole squad almost a go in the next few games. And then we can see what a best 11 or best 12 players can be going into the second half.
Also, Bravo's the one with the most miles under his belt. He's just come off the CPL with the championship there. So he's batted and bowled more than anybody else, I think, in this team.
Yeah, so exactly. So and there's no substitute for match experience. So he's not going to be rusty coming back in.
Right. So since you guys are talking so much about bowlers, tell me something. Why isn't CSK playing Mitch Santner? I mean, he's supposed to be the best T20 bowler, right?
Karthik, do we have some stats around him being the best T20 bowler around?
I think he's had a good last couple of seasons, but he wouldn't be like an automatic pick straight away. I think the reason why they haven't played him, in fact, if we had to have a first choice spinner, we would probably play Tahir ahead of Santner because of his record for CSK. And also, we have only 4 overseas players we can play. And you can see that Curran's made a strong impact as a pinch hitter as well, and as a bowler. So he's going to stay in the team. Dhoni relies on the experience of Duplessis and Watson, especially with Vijay being out of form and Raina not playing in. So it's been a very, very difficult task for them to manage which 4 players you're going to play. Hence, Santner sat out. And also with the pitches not being so bowling spin friendly, I think it's up for grabs to decide whether he would have actually had more of an impact than any of the other bowlers have had so far. As Jiggy said, I don't think the CSK performance has been poor. We had one poor game. We won the first game, definitely, and the second game was just one bad over. So overall, I think we still have a lot better times to come for CSK.
Yeah, and also in terms of variety, right? I mean, Santner's the left-arm spinner. We already have Jadeja doing that, filling that role. So there's not much new variety he can add to the team. So I think that's why the team currently prefers a overseas fast bowler in Hazelwood. And Sam Curran's really come in and he's cemented his place inside. So I really see doubt if the team is going to drop him in any time in the future. But yeah, in terms of variety, Dhoni likes his variety, right? He wants a left-arm spinner. He wants a wrist spinner. We're missing that off spinner in Harbhajan. That maybe I think one of the cards that Dhoni is playing close to his chest right now is using Kedar Jadhav as that right-arm off spinner, right? Maybe in the second half of the tournament, like I said, we might see him come into play. So yeah, he likes his variety, and I think Jadeja offers that variety currently. So no room for Sank at the moment.
Okay, talking about this variety, if I'm not wrong, we have Karan Sharma in our team, right? And he's been a part of the 3 winning sides. That is SRH in 2016, I think Mumbai Indians in 17, and CSK in 2018. So why isn't CSK engaging him? I mean, we have so much potential, but why not?
I think he's just there as a lucky charm. It's one way to see it. But yeah, I mean, it's that like-for-like replacement, right? If we can't play Imran Tahir as a wrist spinner, we play Piyush Chawla. And if Piyush Chawla has a bad game or he's having a bad run in the tournament and we're unable to play Imran Tahir because of the combination, that's when Karan Sharma will come in as the Indian spinner. So he's a backup. He's a backup for a backup, if I may say so.
What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think with that one, I actually feel he's probably due a go in the next few games, especially if Tahir can't play because of the overseas quota. I think Chawla, Rajasthan Royals, he went for like more than 50 runs in his 4 overs. So given that he hasn't had the best of time, I think you have a fair point there. So I think they should probably give Karan Sharma a go pretty soon.
Yeah.
Not because he's been part of winning squads necessarily, but because I think he's a good replacement and it's worth a shot as well. And he's one of the players I would try out very soon.
Yeah, and decent batsman as well. He can hit a few also.
Okay, so the 2011 season was like the glory season for CSK, right? So do you think we will be able to replicate it this year or even better it?
I honestly think 2018 was the glory season. Did you say 2011?
She did.
Yes.
No,
They have quite a
2018.
few records for it.
No, the comeback was the comeback. I mean, it's the mother of all comebacks. That was the season for me. I mean, 2010, 11, those were great. But we were always on that momentum. You know, Dhoni was peaking, Raina was peaking. We got Jadeja into the team. He was star kid. We had Brendan McCullum at that point. Just think about that opening, right? Brendan McCullum.
Hayden and his mongoose bat as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's a different era, but I think 2018 was the season for me.
Well, IPL can't be IPL without CSK, so we need that, right? Okay. So how, do you think we'll be able to better the 2018 edition in that case?
Well, we can't really better it because we won the tournament there. However, I think you might see, especially if you lose another couple of games out of the next 3. I obviously hope it doesn't happen. But for the first time ever, you might see a CSK team that's at risk of not making the playoffs. Usually, especially the last few years, we've been quite consistent. Whereas in the past, I think around the 2010-11 times, there have been times where I remember Dhoni hit in Dharamshala. There was a must-win game against Kings 11 Punjab, I think, and he hit Pathan out of the ground a few times to take us into the knockouts. So you might see similar situations. So I don't think we will better the performance, but I do think we might have some bigger challenges to come these days. And I think another massive factor for that is obviously the IPL is now not in India, so the home factor is out. Even if CSK played some games out of Chennai, if they played in Pune, they were still used to the grounds. It was still home for them in a way. And Dhoni had played there with the Pune team before as well. But now it's pretty much an away game for every single game. The grounds don't suit Chennai's bowling style as well, generally. So therefore, yes, I think you're going to have a bigger challenge to come. So if they can overcome that and make it to the final this time, then it will be a bigger achievement. But as Jiggy said, coming back from the ban and winning it was obviously a very, very special moment. And that's quite unparalleled as well.
I honestly feel that a lot of things are going against the Chennai Super Kings at the moment. But I have a feeling simply because of the fact that there are only 3 stadiums. There are only 3 grounds that the entire tournament is being played around there. So there's going to be a lot of wear and tear. and I feel is going to play into Dhoni's strategy sooner or later, right? And if he's still got his wits about him, I think we might pull through. At least we'll make it to the playoffs, and then it's just a matter of 1 or 2 good games. Yeah, so I still have the faith. It's going to be difficult, but the fact that these 3 grounds only, and there's a lot of cricket being played on those wickets, I think it might play into our favor.
All right. So, how do you feel about CSK winning a record 100 matches under Mahi's captainship?
Oh, we're used to it by now. Not keeping count, really.
Yeah, no, it just feels amazing that I think it's been a fantastic run over the last 10, 11 years with the IPL, with CSK, or 12, 13 years even. And in fact, even when CSK didn't play for a couple of years, if you just look at how many fans around the world missed CSK in the IPL, it just wasn't the same. So even if Dhoni was playing for a different team, I don't think even for him, heart to heart, it was the same as playing for CSK. So yeah, it's been a great performance to have one captain all through. And Stephen Fleming's been involved initially as a player, I think, right at the start, but then as a player coach, and now as a coach as well. The nucleus of the team's always been there. And as Jiggy says, I'm very similar to him as well. When I pick a team, I stay with them through thick and thin. And it's been a great experience overall supporting CSK. And I wouldn't trade it for anything else or any other team.
Okay. I think we've covered most of the assets and liabilities, but there's something that bothers me. This is probably the last season with Mahi, and with the established fact that we have that Raina is practically married to Mahi, sorry, he will follow suit, right? So whom do you think who's going to fill in the captain's shoes this time?
Well, yeah, if you follow the press, they've said that Dhoni is still going to be there next year, and Srinivasan has said that Dhoni will be there in the new auction. They'll still retain him. But I do think CSK need to think about, like Jiggy was saying earlier, getting some fresher players in, not necessarily as captaincy straight away, because Dhoni, if he's there, he will still be captain. But we need to groom the next captain as well. And one of the issues, I guess, is having a bank of experienced players. You might have, similar to the Indian team, a lot of them leaving at the same time. So Jiggy, if you have to pick another captain, let's say Dhoni was injured for the next season, or he couldn't make it for some reason, who do you go for?
No, I was going to ask you that question. I mean, if the auctions opened up, right? The future captain, I would say, definitely, I think Dhoni is going to stick around for a couple of more seasons at least.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to be next year. But in the future, I would like to see Ashwin come back to Chennai and captain. He's obviously held the captain's mantle for both Tamil Nadu as well as Kings 11 Punjab. And it'd be good to have him back. He's kind of upping his game as well. India is ignoring the Indian team is ignoring him, so he feels there's a lot to prove from his side. But yeah, I like to see Ashwin. Also the local connection, but I really can't think of anybody else who's really caught my eye. To be very honest with you. But yeah, Dhoni in the future, if you can move into a managerial role, that'll be great. Also, if we can get someone like a Rahul Dravid to kind of take over from Stephen Fleming, that'll be great, because India Simmons and Rahul Dravid have had a connection in the past from a division team's angle, right? So N. Srinivasan and Dravid have a connection. So I wouldn't be surprised if we can get the under-19 teams, Indian under-19 teams coach come and take over from Chennai. That'll be like a dream,
Perfect one. Who do you think will fill in the shoes?
Yeah, it's a very difficult choice. I mean, I like the out-of-the-box thinking there by Jiki and going for Ashwin. I think, yeah, Ashwin made his name as a player initially through CSK, so it would be great to have him come back. So yeah, if they can do that, that'd be great. I think from the current squad is really difficult because the obvious choices are also going to retire very soon. So Raina may not even play the next IPL. We're not sure. So he would have been the next choice if a decision had been made, let's say 2-3 years ago. But I don't see CSK investing in a player as captain who's not going to be there for a few more years. I think from the current squad, if I had to pick someone, I would probably go for someone like du Plessis. But again, he's getting on in his years as well. Question is he guaranteed a place in the 11 every single time? Possibly not. So Jadeja would be another shout as well. He's never captained before, so it would be a little bit of a risky bet. But he is establishing himself as a player. He's got the respect of his team. He's very, very selfless. And I think that those are very good qualities. And I wouldn't mind Jadeja being captain too if Ashwin can't come back.
All right. Do you think CSK will win the Fair Play Award for 7th time? And I don't know, where do you think, where will CSK finish off this year? Where do you
I
guys see
would
them
say-
finishing off?
Yeah, I mean, I think because they're older, they'd be wiser and shoot off their mouth a little lesser than the other teams. So yeah, I would assume that at least we'll bag a few fair play points.
Yeah, I agree with Jiggy, but at this point, I'm like, okay, forget the fair play award.
Yeah.
Just do your thing, focus on winning. But Dhoni's team always does it in the right way. I don't think we've ever seen, Chennai indulge in tactics on the field that have been like frowned upon as such. So yeah, we'll definitely be in the top 2 for fair play, I'm sure.
I mean, even Shane Watson's turned a corner.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely.
And okay, whom do you think would be the other top in the other top 2? The other team in the top 2?
In the points table, you mean?
Yes.
Or fair play?
Fair play?
Both. Tell me both.
Karthik? Who's got your eye?
Well, in the points table, I think in the top 2 to 3, Rajasthan Royals definitely seem to have a good squad this year, and I think they'll probably make the top 3. If not, I think they will make it through. Mumbai Indians always slow starters, but they always find a way of making it. So I think Mumbai, Rajasthan, Chennai will definitely be somewhere in the top 4. I'm not sure who the 4th team is quite yet, but those would be 3 I would definitely pick. Personally, I don't think RCB are going to make it again. They have problems again with their lower middle order batting, so that's one puzzle I think no one's been able to solve. They've got some amazing world class players, but for some reason, it just hasn't come together for them. What do you think, Chigi?
You see, I mean, usually we've seen this trend of good bowling teams make it to the top 2, 3, right? It was Hyderabad the last 2 seasons. This year, I think Delhi has the best bowling attack of the lot, so they should be doing pretty well. I'll be surprised if they don't. Yeah, maybe top 3. I hope Chennai scrapes through, and Bombay being Bombay, I mean, they have like proper talent, you know. So I think it should be Chennai, Bombay, Delhi, and an outside chance for between Rajasthan and Punjab, I'd say. Hyderabad, I think I haven't got the greatest of. They're not hit the form yet. I don't think that the team composition also is working out in their favor, and RCB is being RCB again. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so there we have 2 hardcore CSK fans who've given their verdict. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Have an amazing week.
Thank you for having us, Muskan.
Thank you so much. It was our pleasure.
Same here. I hope the turf is on our side this time.
I'm sure it will be. All right. Take care. Bye.
All right.
Bye.